So I'm Asha, Easton. I lead the Innovate UK Immersive Tech Network. We are the government's national cross-sector network for XR innovators. So we're going to be talking a bit about all this amazing funding that's come into the region and try to position it in terms of what this means for the region, both nationally and internationally, and how to make sure that the success of these programs continues on. So I'm just going to give a couple of seconds for everyone to introduce themselves, and then we'll dive in. And we want to keep it conversational, so we want to get questions going as soon as possible. So if you have any, then get them ready. Go ahead, Lamberto.
Hi everyone. So my name is Lamberto Coccioli, and I'm a professor of music and technology at Royal Birmingham Conservatoire. But I'm here because I'm the director of CreaTech Frontiers, which is the first creative industries cluster funded by the AHRC in the West Midlands historically. So it's the first cluster that has come to the region.
Great.
Yeah, hi everybody, I'm Miriam, so I head up CWX. It stands for Coventry Warwickshire Exchange, but what we are is a cluster management, but also a cluster facilitator program of activity with a real unique focus on the creative immersive businesses that exist in this region, because we have a real hotspot, a real bed of creative talent in this region, and so we've got that real unique focus, and that's what we do.
Hi everyone, I'm Mark Ashfield. I run Lime, and we're a business that really sits in the social innovation space. So we're trying to use creative technology as a way to change our society, and we do that by creating digital interactive stories for children. And the purpose of these stories is to help them to develop critical thinking and decision-making skills to be able to navigate the very difficult situations that they find themselves in.
Hi, I'm Malcolm Barnes from Hollywood Gaming. We are a creative technology solutions provider. So we don't have a product. We tend to start with what's the narrative, what's the problem you're trying to resolve, and then we'll mould the technology around that. We work in immersive tech across XR, and our customer base is pretty broad, from arts, culture and heritage, the wide entertainment space, but we also work in enterprise and healthcare.
Amazing. So I want to start with Lamberto and Miriam. So we have two funders here, and then two businesses that have benefited from that funding and kind of know the ropes and how that works. So I just want to give Lamberto and Miriam a second to just kind of dig a bit deeper into what your funding programs have been and the kind of the success stories behind them.
Sure. Go for it.
So CWX was set up as what is called a cluster management organisation, called a CMO. That doesn't sound very sexy. No one really knows what that means, hence why we kind of gave ourselves a bit of a brand. But we were there to support the funding that was brought into this region. So that looked at just under around 5 million that was brought in for the creative and immersive business sector. And out of that was around 55 different projects that were funded, multiple different businesses. And so what we were doing was around putting that support network together, because funnily enough, those businesses don't actually all know each other. They all do their own thing, they all sit sort of separately, and what you don't know, you don't know. And so a lot of our work we're doing was about building that kind of vehicle piece and starting to do the connecting up, enabling that investment to go further than just that one-off piece. So as I say, there was 55 different projects, many of them which have gone on to either get more funding or have gone on to sort of larger and bigger things, from a whole range of things, 30 different sectors represented within those projects, within those businesses, and some of them looking at R&D, so research and development, others to new innovation. So some of them were small businesses, some of them were much larger established ones. So a real impact it was had just from that one-off investment that first came in, but our vision is to see the longevity of that, and that's kind of a lot of the work that we were doing as the kind of support organisation. Yeah, great.
Yeah, we were very much inspired by the example of CWX and its predecessor, the Launchpad, when we developed the idea for CreaTech Frontiers. So again, this creative industries cluster. And the idea was very much to try and support innovation and growth in the region and build an ecosystem. We're not that mature, we just started. So the project launched in February this year, and will last for 5 years. It is a consortium of 4 universities and plus the Royal Shakespeare Company and Digital Catapult, which is a national organization, with deep tech organization, you certainly know. And it's interesting because for the first time, Digital Catapult is a research organization in this partnerip, not as a subcontractor, which means that the way we work with them is a lot more inclusive and a lot more effective for what we can see. So our first foray in funding has been through the foundation's funding call, which closed in August. So it was open for 2 months. We were very pleased with the kind of the response from the region. And by the way, I need to remind you that we are working in the whole West Midlands region, so not just the combined authority area, but the whole 6 counties and the local authorities in the region. So it's a very vast area. So we opened this call. A lot of people registered on the website, almost 500, and then we got 250 applications in the end that were submitted. And then, of course, we had the whole process of assessment throughout the summer, and we managed to actually award 35 grants. So we've notified, we haven't gone public yet because we are looking at all the different agreements with the grant recipients, but we have notified 35 grant awardees that they have been chosen, selected. It was really hard. The quality of the submissions was incredibly high, and we were very pleased because they were across the region geographically, incredibly diverse as well. So with all the measures, in terms of gender, disability, ethnicity, there's a lot of diversity in the submissions. Also, in terms of the spread of areas of creative technologies, there's a bit for every area of creative technologies. The majority in performance. Actually, we've got like 9 projects in live performance, followed by immersive, and then a few more in other areas like screen, like visual arts, and games. And games as well is quite high, 5 projects in games. And of course, in terms of geographical spread, the lion's share is Birmingham. Then we've got a lot of projects also from Coventry, Warwickshire, and then interestingly, for example, from Stoke and Staffordshire, that there are a few projects from there as well. So it's a good spread. So we are quite happy with this first result. We have a lot of data to work with as well in terms of planning what we do next for our next call. We are planning. We're announcing another foundation's call next year. These are early calls for freelancers and companies that are in early stages of development of an idea or a prototype, something that is quite embryonic yet, and we want to support this early stage with support from academics to develop R&D together with a company or the freelancers applying. So it is initial funding, but we think it's really important to then allow these companies or these people to grow further throughout our program. This is a 5-year program, and we will invite the recipients of our grants and those that were not successful to apply again next year and the year after. We'll also be announcing calls for larger grants later on. We won't be able to, with this scheme, we won't be able to fund projects with more than 50k grants, but there will be a couple of calls for 50k grants later on in the project period. And I'll stop here for now.
Yeah, that's great. So it sounds like there's been really great momentum building over time. Both of these kind of funding programs are kind of building off of each other. Mark and Malcolm, I wanted to hear about your experience in this kind of growing ecosystem, what it's been like, and what opportunities you see for the future.
Yeah, shall I start? Yeah. So my own experience, I've just come off the back of 2 innovation cycles. The first was funded by an ERDF grant. Remember those? When we were part of Europe, and then more recently through Innovate UK. So for the last 3 years, really, we've been innovating, and I think what we're really good at in this country, but particularly I think in this region, is the innovation part, the ideas. I think there's no shortage of great ideas, as Lamberto will attest to. I think one of the challenges that we see is the kind of the what next bit. So it's great to get money to innovate, but it's that road to maybe what you might call commercialization or sustainability. I think that's the real challenge for the region, and maybe one that I think we're still finding our way on a little bit. I know that CWX are doing some great work in this space, and there's some stuff coming up later this month, which I'm sure Miriam will talk about. But yeah, I think the innovation part we're really good at. It's the how do you support businesses to then grow and prosper and employ people locally and access the talent and all of those other challenges that I think that come with innovation. I don't know if you'd agree.
Yeah, totally. I think this is a moment in time. It really is. The creative sector has been starved of funding in the West Midlands. I've only worked in the region for probably 17 years. This is the most buoyant I can ever remember it. So it is extraordinary. So we have to embrace that opportunity. And to Mark's point, it's great getting the funding and doing some of the R&D, but you've got to scale. This has to be it has to scale, otherwise future funding isn't going to happen. So I think it's important we make the best out of this opportunity. I think from us and kind of our experience of CWX has been the collaboration opportunities with other awardees has been enormous. We're all in the same position. We all help each other. We explain some of the challenges of the Innovate UK process, but that's all part of the really, it's a good fertile ground to start collaboration, and out of that has come other opportunities. And Mark and I have been speaking about what that might look like. We haven't got something concrete yet, but it's just kind of fermenting those ideas and opportunities. And just very briefly as a shout out to CreaTech Frontiers, having been on the judging panel, it was extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. Some fantastic ideas coming through.
I want to open it up to the audience in case anyone has any questions at this point. Yeah, go ahead. Let's make it conversational.
Yeah, so I don't want to make this political at all, but so I've based in Wolverhampton. Been in the creative industry for like 30 years there, and everything's been stripped out of Wolverhampton. The university don't even get involved in creative industries. If there was a way of, so I started to pull together creative just off my own back with no help. Is there a way of, if we could find a group of people willing to do something in the city, is there funding available to build a surge of creatives to do something away from the university council who have abandoned it?
Yeah, this is a question for me. Well, regarding Wolverhampton, yeah, in fact, we were in talks with the University of Wolverhampton to get them on the cluster initially, but then they didn't follow through. But in these times what we just said. Well, we're very happy to support events, for example, to come and run a workshop or a series of events to promote our activities and also look at what is locally possible. And this could be funded by the project. But in terms of specific funding for something, the only mechanism that we have is through these funding calls. So funding calls generally will be open to the whole region. But we're very happy to come. We did this in Stoke-on-Trent, and it was really a great thing. I think we didn't have the time to do it for every county in the West Midlands, but our ambition before the next call is to do a road show and actually visit, because everyone is online, but there's a huge difference if you find a nice place on location in Wolverhampton, Walsall, wherever in Dudley, and then spend an afternoon there with the local companies, local freelancers, and have a really open discussion about lots of interesting things. And basically what we try to do is also be facilitators and catalysts so that we bring people together and allow ideas to then flourish.
That'd be great.
Miriam, you mentioned that you are going to be running a commercialization program as like in response, I guess, to what companies have said about needing this kind of missing piece. Do you want to mention that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of our key strategies with CWX has been about it being industry-led. So just the real listening element, which I think is super important across, if you're doing any kind of innovation, you kind of got to listen to what's needed. So it's what we've then done, responded, and one of the key things, as Mark was exactly what he was saying, was that that post-grant challenge that was coming through from a lot of businesses, from both small and large, of saying, what do we do next after we've had this launch, or how do we scale up? So in November the 26th, you put it in your diaries now, we are running an event called Money Matters. So it's a real focus on commercialization. It's really about knowledge exchange. It's about insight-led. We're going to have some really great expert speakers there, really touching everything from investment to scalability, scaling sensibly, thinking about the kind of financial terminology. So, but very much open to any business, really. Anyone who's also interested in that, even if you're a freelancer as well, anyone kind of working in the creative and immersive sector, absolutely open. So yeah, feel free to come along.
Is there an international element to this as well? And Mark and Malcolm, what has been your experience in these programs in terms of help in scaling your businesses beyond the UK?
Yeah, if I go back, certainly a couple of years ago, we had some opportunities to be able to export out. I don't think that would have happened. I think that would have been in the too hard box, quite frankly. So that bit of funding, it was a commercial process as well. So we were able to be paid for the work that we did, which was great. But I think without that initial piece of funding, would we have done as much of the R&D? Possibly not, and therefore we might not have gone for it. I'm just going back actually to that previous question. I just wonder, Min, whether there's anything in terms of cluster support, because that's a big piece of what you guys did, and whether there's any support that could be given to you. I appreciate you doing this as a one-man band, and trust me, we've been in that environment of feeling as though you're out there on your own and there's nobody listening. So I think if maybe there's some support that could, just in terms of how to formulate those clusters.
Yeah, well, just I was going to say, to add to that is just to emphasise the importance of, as I'm sure you all know, the clusters, whether it's a more micro cluster that exists in very small areas, part of a much wider piece, because the data shows and evidence shows that it de-risks business overall, because you are having that shared piece, and it also creates social architecture as well, which also really benefits on a much bigger scale. So definitely happy to have a chat about whether there's something that we can do coming out over into Wolverhampton, whether there's something that just encourage you to even start bringing people together, and then going, okay, we can connect up and we can let you know about events that we're doing, and that kind of invite absolutely extends over to where you are. So yeah.
I'd also just like to flag one quick thing. If there's another question, by the way, let's tee up another question while I'm saying this. But with this national network that we run, it's been our constant struggle to always have regular activity all across the country and work cross-sector as well, and cater kind of to everyone that comes across our network, which is completely massive. And so for years, I've been trying to figure out a way to create hubs for the network around the country that we can then be the national connector of. And we've just secured a small amount of funding to pilot this idea. So we're going to be setting up clusters, small clusters around the country, and then act as a bit of a national connector of them, and then hopefully bring an international spotlight to those joined up hubs. So this is something that we'd love to potentially explore with the West Midlands and see how we can join up all the bits of funding that's around in the ecosystem and then link it all together, because everyone has the thing I've seen constantly is that we all have bits, and also that a lot of those bits end up being time boxed. So it's about how do we make sure that by joining it all up, we have much bigger impact with our small amounts of money and create longevity for everyone is doing. And that's kind of the longer term goal. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys what you think about this, and about plugging these kind of ecosystems together, joining up with other hubs around the country and working together.
Yeah, I think that, and related to your question around internationalization, I think that there are both opportunities and there is funding out there, but I think the challenge is knowing about everything that's going on in every place, and you can't possibly know all of those things.
Exactly.
I'm going to the US at the end of this month, funded by the Combined Authority, and I only knew about that because I happened to be in a room where a conversation took place.
Yes.
And it led to an application, and here I am doing this amazing thing and going and seeing if what we do is applicable in the US. But I think that's the job of the ecosystem. If an ecosystem can have a job, it's how do you convene, how do you bring all of that stuff together? It's a real challenge, and I don't envy you guys for having that challenge. But if we can build an ecosystem, and it relies on us engaging as well, of course.
Yeah.
But if you can build that ecosystem in a way that it's really easy to access, and it is that kind of single front door, that one point of access, then I think that's really powerful, and I think there's the potential here in this region more than anywhere else. But yeah, tough challenge.
Yeah, maybe just quickly on this internationalization piece. Our universities have incredible international presence.
Yeah.
Our cultural organizations have incredible international reputation and presence as well. If you think of the Royal Shakespeare companies, it's a global brand. Absolutely. We try to build a bit of that in CreaTech Frontiers. So we've got a strand of showcasing the work that comes out of our funding calls internationally. So we've got as partners South by Southwest and Ars Electronica in Linz, which is also a festival of contemporary art media. And also a conservatoire in Beijing that runs a yearly festival, a yearly festival called SOMI, Summit of Music Intelligence, so all about music and AI. So we want to give this kind of international exposure to the projects that will come out of our funding.
That's
programs.
fantastic.
And I think universities are really well placed in this region to do that. I mean, I've had incredible support from the University of Warwick and from Aston University and from others. So I think they're in a really good place to help that whole convening role.
Yeah, this is like part of the criteria that we're going to require for the hubs, that there's like an academic partner, industry partner, potentially like a combined authority or a local enterprise partnership or any other kind of local partner that wants to join in to try and like make sure that it's spread across all of these kind of opportunities. Does anyone else have a question for the group? Oh, there's one at the very back and one here at the front.
Hi. In some of the previous talks, there was discussion about creativity and technology as a force for good. And then I noticed that I think Mark yourself mentioned working with children, and I just wondered if you could explain a little bit more about what your company does, and perhaps how the funding has helped you as well.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I'm a passionate advocate of technology for good. What we do is we create what are essentially digital comic books that they look like, and children navigate through stories and what the neuroscience says is that when you experience a story, you kind of process it in the same way as you would real life. So you can lay down neural pathways and teach learning, decision making, and creative thinking through these stories. So I'm very much an advocate for using technology in that positive way, but of course that comes with some risks as well. So we're looking at things like trust-based architecture and how you design things so that they're completely safe. But yeah, does that kind of answer your question?
Can I just very quickly, because I
Please,
know
go for it,
we're time short, but pop round our stand as well. Have a look at some of the things that we're doing around regulated healthcare. So this is not, well-being app. This is proper regulated healthcare where we're working with NHS trusts. I think it's brilliant to see how creative companies such as Mark's and mine can move from, say, a games area into these other sectors where the clinicians know what it is they want, but find that really difficult to articulate within a hospital environment. So we're able to come in and facilitate that particular process.
Yes. I'm going to make one last comment because it actually might also be an interesting way to plug in what's going on in the region with some of this international work that our network's doing. So we've contributed a lot over the last 5 years to things around XR and safeguarding and children and various reports. We just launched a report called Ethics in Action with PwC and Tech UK. And we ran a safeguarding and immersive conference last year, which then was picked up by Interpol, and they put us forward to redo that same conference at an internal big conference that was for like all the heads of policing and all the intelligence services of the UK, so they could understand like what was going on and what are the potential future harms or current harms as we know them. And so we redid that for them, and now we're kind of like embedded in that work, and Interpol wants us to do some more work potentially internationally about upskilling law enforcement around the world on what's going on with this stuff. Off the back of that, we've also set up an ethics working group looking at kind of these issues. It's like kind of a core of some of the work that we do, and it's also led to a bunch of other national kind of connections that we've got around immersive and cybersecurity and safeguarding. And there's a kind of an idea floating around and watch this space, but again, maybe it's something all of you might be interested in connecting with, doing like a pan-European XR cybersecurity hackathon to come up with actual solutions to all the things that we've been talking about over the last 5 years and reports and things that we've done with researchers and stuff. So stuff is moving, stuff is going on. There's obviously lots of talent here in the West Midlands, and always happy to join all of this up, and hopefully we'll be back on this stage in like a year's time talking about some of those outcomes. So thank you all so much for your time, for joining us.
Thank you, Asha.